Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
NIDCAM to evacuate remaining 1,700 Nigerians in Sudan in a matter of days. Minister of Education Adamu expresses satisfaction with the conduct of rescheduled 2023 UTME. Minister of Defense Bashir Magashi denies calling President-elect Bola Tinubu a drug lord. On the foreign scene, Charles III has been crowned King of England. Good evening, this is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is Evelyn Ohiola. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission NIDCAM says about 1,700 remaining Nigerians in Sudan will be evacuated in a matter of days. Head of Media, Public Relations and Protocols at NIDCAM, Abdurrahman Balogun, said the next batch of returnees is being expected in another 12 hours or less. He said all the issues that have to do with delay of other flights had been addressed. He said all the returnees would be profiled, catered for, and provided with post-trauma treatment and counseling. Mr. Balogun added that the returnees who are students would also liaise with the Federal Ministry of Education for the continuation of their studies in Nigeria. Meanwhile, another batch of Nigerians evacuated from Sudan has arrived at the Federal Capital Territory. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission said the batch, which comprises 131 Nigerians, including 124 adults and 7 infants, arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja at about 1:45 p.m. To Education, Minister of Education Adamu has expressed satisfaction over the conduct of the rescheduled 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME. Mr. Adamu, who alongside the Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Professor Ishiaku Layede, monitored the examination at the Computer-Based Test Center located in Mambila Barracks, Asokoro, Abuja, expressed delight over the smooth conduct of the exercise. Meanwhile, JAMB's head of Public Affairs and Protocol, Fabian Benjamin, in an interview with journalists at the venue, said about 80,000 candidates who could not sit for the 2023 UTME within their scheduled time, owing to no fault of theirs, sat for the rescheduled UTME across the country. According to the JAMB spokesperson, the candidates affected include those who were verified at their centers but could not sit for the examination, those who could not be biometrically verified, and those with mismatched data, amongst others. He said the deployment of innovations in the conduct of the exam paid out bountifully as the exercise recorded the lowest reported cases of infractions. On when the result of the rescheduled UTME would be released by the examination body, Dr. Benjamin said the board's management will analyze the conduct of the exercise after its conclusion before it will make a decision on that. The board had on Tuesday released the result of candidates who had earlier taken part in the exam, which commenced on April 25, 2023. A total of 1.58 million candidates registered for the 2023 UTME. Away from education, the newly inaugurated and 20th chairman of the Nigeria Society of Engineers, Osogbo branch, Engineer Wasiu Idowu, has promised to be diligent and also to discharge his duties with the fear of the Almighty. Engineer Idowu made the statement at the inauguration ceremony alongside the 2022-2023 branch executives in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, today. Olayinka Ale witnessed the occasion and files in this report.
The inauguration of Engineer Wasiu Olalekan Idowu as the 20th chairman of the Nigeria Society of Engineers NSE Osogbo chapter and the 2022-2023 branch executive also witnessed the induction of new corporate members, awards, and public lecture. The event was held today in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, with the theme Adequate Infrastructural Development as Panacea to Security Challenges in Nigeria. Representing the Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke, the Secretary to the State Government, Teslim Igbalaye, expressed the administration's readiness to partner the Nigeria Society of Engineers Osogbo branch.
I should not end this address without expressing the readiness of our administration to partner with Nigeria Society of Engineers in our drive to develop Osun State. As engineers, build the society. I sent my offer for your association to be our partner in the building and development of the state.
In his address, the immediate past chairman of NSE Osogbo branch, Engineer Wale Alunge, disclosed that he feels so elated to pass the baton of power to his successor, having padded the tenure of the society for 2 years. He equally expressed confidence that Engineer Idowu will work efficiently with the society's template, also admonishing him to seek counsel from the past leaders of the society.
I feel so good, so excited, giving glory unto God for the opportunity. After serving 2 good years diligently, the Nigeria Society of Engineers Osogbo and the society at large, it is highly excited to pass the mantle onto the successor. No one has the whole knowledge. Nobody cannot perform. All I wish him is success, but he should at least try to have a teamwork, get advice from the elders and those around him.
Reading his acceptance speech as the 20th chairman of NSE Osogbo branch, Engineer Wasiu Idowu stated that his predecessor left a legacy of dedication and progress, and which he is determined to carry on the good works and responsibility that is expected of him.
As I assume this office, I am determined to carry on with his good work, ever conscious of the contributions of those who have come before me. As I embark on this new responsibility, I am reminded that with great positions come great responsibility. I assure you that I will work tirelessly to fulfill my duties in the capacity of the chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers Osogbo branch.
Engineer Idowu also gave his assurance that as he embarks on this new journey, he will work tirelessly to fulfill his duties in the capacity of the chairman of the association.
Engineering is a family, and we always build on the effort of our heroes past. If they have not started the foundation, there's nothing we can build on it. That's why I've promised that we are going to continue from where they are stopped. We try as much as possible to take care of the welfare of our members, build their capacity, and work together so that they can get satisfaction on the job they have chosen to do. We work together with them, collaborate with them so that they will feel the joy of being engineers.
Among the inductees were Engineer Oluwatosin Ogunlade and Engineer Seun Adeloye, who promised to be upright in delivering their roles as engineers in the society.
As an engineer, I will make sure the society is safe and conducive for everyone.
In my field of engineering, civil engineering, looking forward to creating a safe and a stable atmosphere for infrastructural development, and also contribute my intellectual capacity in building up young engineers that are coming up too.
The roles of engineers cannot be overemphasized in the society, as they have the unique capacity of solving social problems through the use of machines, devices, systems, materials, and processes. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
In other news, the crisis rocking the Labour Party is yet to abate as the Kaduna State chapter today dissociated itself from the Lamidia Pepper faction of the party. The party also suspended 3 of its chieftains for anti-party activity. Rising from a State Executive Council emergency meeting in Kaduna, the party identified those suspended to include the party deputy governorship candidate in the last poll, Bashir Idris Aliyu, its senatorial candidate, Michael Ayuba Auta, and another chieftain, Ibrahim Sidi Bamali. An 8-point communique read out to journalists by the party's public relations officer, Yusuf Idris, said those suspended attended the Bauchi National Executive Council meeting of the factional chairman of the party, Lamidi Apapa. According to the spokesman, the party's decision to suspend the chieftains will be forwarded to the National Working Committee of the Labour Party and other relevant bodies for further action. Mr. Yusuf added that the members of the party affirmed their loyalty to the state chairman, Alwa Tafoki, urging the public to disregard anyone posing as the chairman in the state. Meanwhile, a Makadi High Court led by Chief Judge Justice Maurice Umpambese will announce its judgment on May 26, 2023 regarding the removal of Dr. Iyorchia Ayu as the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party (PDP). Mr. Conrad Utan, a PDP member, filed the lawsuit against Mr. Ayu after the Igrove Ward Executive Committee suspended him following a vote of no confidence. During the hearing, Dr. Ayu's lawyer, Yakubu Mekasua, objected to the court's jurisdiction, claiming the issue was an internal party affair. He also said the plaintiff didn't use the party's internal dispute resolution mechanism before going to court. In response to the objection, counsel to the plaintiff insisted that the matter was not an internal affair of the political party, saying that there was a judicial precedent which had resolved a similar issue. In the meantime, the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, has denied calling President-elect Bola Tinubu a drug lord, describing the claim as spurious. It will be recalled that the report added that the retired general purportedly said it was an insult to the military to have a known drug lord as a CNC of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. However, in a statement today by spokesperson Mohammed Abdul Qadri, he said the myopic, diabolic, and despotic publication can be traced to anti-democratic forces. Magashi accused disgruntled elements of trying to drag his reputation and that of the nation's apolitical military into disparaging Tinubu. Magashi further condemned the concoction of fake news against him at a time he is busy supervising the military in aid of civil authority to defend Nigeria's democracy. Moving on, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Bas Mustafa, has dissociated the Presidential Transition Council from the circulating program of events for the presidential inauguration. Yesterday, the program of events, including time details for the inauguration ceremony, was circulating on social media platforms. But reacting to these through a statement today, Director of Information for the SGF, Willie Bassi, said the presumed leak is fake and should not be given serious attention. He said various approved events for the inauguration will be held from the week commencing on May 22nd, noting that the original order of the program would be unveiled on May 18th. The Transition Council was approved for establishment by President Muhammadu Buhari on February 9th in order for it to coordinate the activities towards ensuring a smooth transition of power from the current administration to the next. You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, Charles III has been crowned King of England. We will bring you more on this when we return.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white supremacists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told
You're welcome back. This is still news at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. NIDCAM says the remaining 1,700 Nigerians in Sudan to be evacuated in a matter of days. Minister of Education Adamu expresses satisfaction with the conduct of the rescheduled 2023 UTME. Minister of Defense Bashir Magashi denies calling President-elect Bola Tinubu a drug lord. And on the foreign scene, Charles III has been crowned King of England. A federal high court sitting in Lagos has ordered the final forfeiture of 293 million naira, 6 parcels of land and 30,000 MTN shares recovered from a former commander of the military joint task force Operation Polo Shield in the Niger Delta, Major General Emmanuel Atewe, retired. Justice Chukwujeku Aneke made an order for the permanent forfeiture of the assets to the federal government following an application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. EFCC lead counsel Rotimi Oyedepo had brought the application before the court for the final forfeiture of the assets without conviction. Since 2016, the EFCC has been prosecuting Major General Atewe alongside a former Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency NIMASA, Patrick Akpolubolo Kimi Ngozu, and Josephine Otuaga. They were all accused of conspiring to divert the sum of 8.5 billion naira for the military operation Polo Shield in the Niger Delta. In March 2020, Justice Muhammad Liman had ordered the interim forfeiture of the assets following an ex parte application by the EFCC counsel Rotimi Oyedepo. Now to security. The Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun has declared the cultism as an act of terrorism, vowing that his administration would henceforth deal with suspected cultists as terrorists. The governor, who made the declaration at the Akarigbo's Palace in Shagamu during a stakeholder security meeting held yesterday, said his government has had enough and was ready to deal with the matter once and for all. He said the government will start considering cult members and other criminals as saboteurs to the economy, if of not just this local government, but the state. He further stated that he had instructed law enforcement agencies to smoke those involved.
Unto you, King Charles, your undoubted king. Wherefore, all you who are come this day to do your homage and service, are you willing to do the same? God save King Charles.
Charles III has been crowned King of England. The coronation, which took place today at London's Westminster Abbey, is the first one in England in the last 70 years. About 2,200 people, including the royal family, celebrities, faith leaders, and the head of state, were there to witness the ceremony, which was full of music and symbolism. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Charles was presented with the coronation regalia, including the royal robe and stool, and was then crowned with the 360-year-old St. Edward's crown. Camilla, Queen Consort, was also anointed and crowned in a simpler ceremony, but she was not asked to take an oath. Earlier, leading members of Republic, the anti-monarchy group, were amongst people arrested near Trafalgar Square during protests. In September 2022, King Charles was proclaimed as Britain's new monarch following the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who died at the age of 96.
The Church established by law, whose settlement you will swear to maintain, is committed to the true profession of the gospel, and in so doing will seek to foster an environment in which peoples of all faiths and beliefs may live freely. The coronation oath has stood for centuries and is enshrined in law. Are you willing to take the oath?
I am willing.
Will you solemnly promise and swear to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, your other realms and the territories to any of them belonging or pertaining, according to their respective laws and customs?
I solemnly promise so to do.
Will you, to your power, cause law and justice in mercy to be executed in all your judgments?
I will. I, Charles, do solemnly and sincerely, in the presence of God, profess, testify, and declare that I am a faithful Protestant, and that I will, according to the true intent of the enactments which secure the Protestant succession to the throne, uphold and maintain the said enactments to the best of my powers according to law. All this I promise to do. The things which I have herebefore promised, I will perform and keep. So help me God.
We are now joined on News at 7 by journalist based in the United Kingdom, Tamsin Taiwo. Thank you so much for joining us, Tamsin. All right, we will try to reconnect with Tamsin Taiwo. But we move on. In Africa, Sudan's warring parties have met for direct talks, and Saudi Arabia's mediators pressed for an end to a conflict that has killed hundreds and sent tens of thousands fleeing. Saudi Arabia and the United States welcomed the start of the pre-negotiation talks this morning in the Saudi coastal city of Jeddah between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. Numerous truces have been violated since the conflict broke out. The U.S.-Saudi initiative in Jeddah is the first serious attempt to end fighting that has endangered Sudan's fragile transition following years of unrest and uprisings. According to the Sudanese Health Ministry, at least 550 people were killed, including civilians, and more than 4,900 wounded since the conflict erupted on April 15. Right now, we'll take you back to the coronation of King Charles III, and we are now joined by a journalist based in the United Kingdom, Tamsin Taiwo. Thank you so much for joining us, Tamsin.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Evelyn. I hope you're fine.
All right, I am doing so fine. Can you just tell us generally the mood in across the United Kingdom following today's historic event? Talk about the coronation of King Charles III.
Yeah, it is indeed very historic. A time like this in the United Kingdom, a whole lot of people are happy. The majority of people are happy about the coronation, and you also have some groups of people who were not really comfortable, with the event. I mean, it's a normal thing, it's a normal thing to have some people not liking, a particular process or what is happening. But then people are really happy about this very coronation. So it was a mix of both religious service and also pageantry. I mean, King Charles became the 40th reigning monarch in the United Kingdom, and also Queen Kamala was also crowned alongside her. So it was the day of splendor and formality in the United Kingdom, and some of their customs were observed. Customs, traditions dating back to more than 1,000 years. And also at the event today, a particular tradition was broken. The king and the queen, they did not ride in the old gold state coach. They used another one, the Diamond Jubilee State coach. That particular one has a very deep history. It was built in 2012 in Australia to mark this 60 years of Queen Elizabeth's reign. At that particular point in time. So this new coach is air-conditioned, pulled by 6 horses, and also it has 3 riders as well, hydraulic suspension and all. Very beautiful sight indeed. Many people must have seen that on television. But talking about the procession for the event, it moved along the mall to a particular square that is called Trafalgar, and then went down Whitehall and also Parliament Street before turning into Parliament Square, and also abroad a sanctuary to reach the Great Westminster and the Great Westminster Abbey. And outside the palace gates, there was a guard of honor comprising about 160 members of the 3 armed services, with another 1,000 personnel lying that particular route. So we had the Tri-Service Guard of Honor, Army, Royal Navy, Royal Marines Band, civilian services, and also a RAF along that particular side. So there were almost 4,000 invited guests for the event, and we had more than 2,200 people from 223 countries. They were in Westminster Abbey for the event, and there are a lot of people there, actually, heads of state and government, people from different parts of the world to witness the occasion. So the celebrations were in stages. The first one was the recognition stage, where King Charles was presented to the people. As a tradition dating back to Anglo-Saxon times, standing beside the 700-year-old coronation chair. And when that was observed, then it moved on to the second one, the second stage now of the oath, which you also which you've actually read out in your in the bulletin. The Archbishop of Canterbury acknowledging the multiple faiths observed in the UK by saying that the Church of England would seek to foster an environment in which people of all faiths may live free. So after the oath-taking ceremony, then the anointing, which is very ceremonial. The king's ceremonial robe was removed and started the coronation chair to be anointed. One of the stages there. Then the investiture, literally the crowning moment for the king in that particular celebration, and the enthronement, which was the final thing, that was done today. Generally, the people are happy in the United Kingdom, and they are wishing the king well.
All right, many outside England, especially in Africa, watched in awe this historic event. What will you say are the takeaway lessons we can have in this event, knowing that this is after 70 years, we are having another coronation?
for me, I think the thing is this: the coronation went, it went very well. I mean, as the rest of the world, they really have a lot to learn. There was a culture, there was culture on display, a tradition on display, and everything brought together. I mean, there was this blend, and it was very colorful, full of pomp and pageantry. It shows the rich customs and traditions of the United Kingdom, and those things were never missed at all. I mean, they were there. People saw them, and it was also a very well organized event, with people from different parts of the world. And for the people in the UK, it is a defining moment indeed. We are looking forward to a very prosperous and a great time with King Charles, the way they had it when Queen Elizabeth was on the throne.
All right, very quickly, Thompson, let's talk about family ties now. Prince Harry was present at his father's coronation, and some will make of his early departure a sign. But what do you make of Prince Harry's presence at his father's coronation?
Yeah, for me, I was happy. I think it might just be the first major step, in reconciling both Harry and also his brother, and also for peace to reign in the family. I mean, the family has really witnessed so much drama. You know what I'm talking about, okay? You have Harry stroke and Meghan vessels, Prince William, and also the wife. Then so many things that happened back then. Maybe this is going to be the first step to reconciliation for the two brothers, and also for the monarchy as well. Because ideally, when you're talking about a royal family, when you're talking about the monarchy, it is not really good to have so much drama, around the throne. But we have witnessed many of that, around the monarchy in the United Kingdom. So maybe it should be a time for them to actually come together, reconcile, and move forward from there.
All right, finally, before we let you go, Thompson, what is the significance of this coronation for the Commonwealth, which Nigeria is part of?
Yeah, when you talk about the significance, indeed, a lot of people want to ask you, what would Nigeria, for instance, as a country, but what are we going to gain from the coronation in the United Kingdom? Yeah. Is it not just their own affair? But then Nigeria belongs to the Commonwealth, and if it is well with the United Kingdom, then it's also well with Nigeria. I think people are looking forward to a great time with King Charles, and also the Commonwealth nations as well. The ones aim to also portray those ideals, those things that they loved, in Queen Elizabeth II when she was here. A very graceful woman, and very peaceful woman as well. Many people believe this. So they want him to carry on from where Queen Elizabeth II stopped. I mean, for things to get better. And times have changed. So whatever way you do at this time must also reflect the realities of this very season. So we can only wish him well.
Thank you so much, Thompson Taiwo, for joining us on News at 7 at Western Spring Television.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
All right. All right, we move on now. In the Middle East, Iran executed a Swedish-Iranian dissident convicted of leading an Arab separatist group accused of attacks, including one on a military parade in 2018 that killed 25 people. Habib Farajullah Chab was sentenced to death for being corrupt on earth, a capital offense under Iran's strict interpretation of Islamic law. State broadcaster IRIB reported its execution this morning. Iran said in 2020 its security forces arrested Sweden-based Chab in Turkey and took him to Tehran without saying where or how he was captured. Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström reacted with dismay to the execution, saying his government had pleaded with Iran not to carry it out. He stated that the death penalty is an inhumane and irreversible punishment, and Sweden, together with the rest of the EU, condemns its application under all circumstances. In Asia, Pakistan is hosting a day-long trilateral dialogue with China and Afghanistan in Islamabad after the arrival of the Chinese and Afghan foreign ministers Qin Gang and Malawi Amir Khan Muttaqi. In addition to attending the 5th round of the trilateral dialogue between the three countries today, the two foreign ministers will also participate in bilateral discussions with their Pakistani counterpart, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Mr. Muttaqi, Afghanistan's interim foreign minister, was granted a travel ban exemption by the United Nations Security Council earlier this month, allowing him to travel to Pakistan. He has long been subjected to a travel ban, asset freeze, and arms embargo under UNSC sanctions. The visit to Pakistan by the Afghan minister comes in the same week the UN hosted a conference on Afghanistan in Doha, Qatar, without inviting the country's Taliban rulers. Still ahead, Nigerian Export Promotion Council has advised farmers to prioritize the production of economic crops. We have more on this and other business stories after this break. Please stay with us.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history. It was a Euro-American trade in slaves by which 12.5 million Africans were captured from their indigenous homelands and transported via the Atlantic to Europe and the Americas. The transatlantic slave, also known as triangular trade, was the worst form of man's inhumanity to man and the most costly in human life of all long-distance global migrations. Hundreds of Africans chained tightly to plank beds in the belly of slave ships in horrific conditions were transported via the Atlantic and stripped of all human dignity on arrival in Europe and America. It is the greatest crime the Caucasians committed against the black race. It is impossible to discuss the transatlantic slave trade without a copious reference to impoverishment and underdevelopment of Africa and its peoples. The triangular trade left the continent in ruins. Western Spring Television identifies transatlantic slave trade as a watershed event in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business Business and the Premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Welcome back now to business. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council has advised farmers to prioritize the production of economic crops and trees to tap from the huge potential of export to the international market. Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Council, Dr. Ezra Yukasuk, gave the advice in Abuja. He said cultivation of economic trees like cashew and palm trees has a huge export potential and urged farmers to key in and reap the benefits. Dr. Yakusak said the Council would provide the needed awareness, technical support, capacity building and tips on how to access the international market through export. According to him, with economic crops and trees, farmers will make more money through export and use part of the profit to buy food with so much change in the bank. Outside Nigeria, Warren Buffett has offered a vote of confidence in the United States, saying it could not imagine the government letting it default on its debt and risk letting the world's financial system to go into turmoil. Speaking at Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting in downtown Omaha this afternoon, Mr. Buffett said it would have been catastrophic for regulators not to step in to protect depositors of Silicon Valley Bank, which was seized in March after a bank run. But he said Berkshire is well positioned as rising interest rates help its insurance units generate more income from investments, even as partnership in Washington deteriorates into a form of tribalism. The comments came hours after Berkshire posted a big jump in quarterly profit and said it bought back $4.4 billion of its own stock, a sign it considered the shares undervalued. Still in the U.S., the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has issued its largest ever award of nearly $279 million to a whistleblower whose information helped the regulator's enforcement action. The regulator did not disclose the case concerned in its statement yesterday. The award is more than double the $140 million that it had issued in October 2020. Payments to whistleblowers are made of an investor protection fund established by Congress and financed entirely through monetary sanctions paid to the SEC by securities law violators. Awards to whistleblowers can range from 10% to 30% of the money collected when the monetary sanctions exceed $1 million. In sports, Odion Ighalo was in action for Al Hilal, who lost 1-0 to Japanese club Urawa Reds Diamonds in the second leg of the Asian Champions League final today. Ighalo saw action for 90 minutes but could not help his side clinch a fifth continental title. Urawa Reds were crowned champions for the third time in the competition history. They won 2-1 on aggregate after the first leg ended 1-1 in Saudi Arabia. An own goal by Al Hilal, Adre Carrillo, gave Urawa Reds their first Asian Champions League title since 2017. Two late goals finally gave Frank Lampard his first win since his return as Chelsea's interim manager. The Blues had lost all 4 Premier League games since Lampard's return in April, but had led through Conor Gallagher's early header. Matthias Vina levelled for Bournemouth, but Benoit Badiashile and Joao Felix struck inside the last 10 minutes. Relegation remains a possibility for the Cherries, with 3 games left, while Chelsea are 11th in the table. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCAM, says about 1,700 remaining Nigerians in Sudan will be evacuated in a matter of days. Minister of Education Adamu has expressed satisfaction over the conduct of the rescheduled 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. The Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, has denied calling President-elect Bola Tinubu a drug lord, describing the claim as spurious. On the foreign scene, Charles III has been crowned King of England. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Evelyn Ohiola. Many thanks for your time.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria.